Mount Kimbie, the Sunset Violent album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning. Here tonight to chat about this latest album from Mount Kimbie. They've been at it for a while now. They are an electronic band out of the UK. And many years ago, in the kind of height of my future garage phase, I did get into a lot of their early stuff, their EPs, their debut album, Crooks and Lovers, which I thought was pretty okay. I mean, tracks like Ruby and Feel definitely popped hard for me and made me look in the band's direction, but a lot of this album also was a little bit too subtle for me. Now, Cold Spring Faultless Youth followed this album up, and for the most part, I had a lot of the same feelings on it. I mean, their budding working relationship with the likes of James Blake, and most importantly, Archie Marshall, King Cruel, was really great to see. Also, the band's song structures and songwriting had come a long way in a very short period of time. However, consistency was still a big issue, and I still felt like a lot of the subtle moments on these projects just really washed right by. Now, I kind of laid off the band for a couple of years, even though I knew a lot of people were enjoying their EPs still, but their 2017 album, Love What Survives, this was a project that I kind of took a gamble on reviewing, and I'm really glad that I did, because this is miles more interesting than anything that Mount Kimbie had touched in the past. The band's song structures had come miles. Not only that, the production was so much more interesting, and on top of that, Mount Kimbie were taking a lot of risk. Now, leading up to this new album, The Sunset Violent, I've been really hyped because these singles, I mean, very clearly they are going in a more post-punk direction, and the album does follow suit, but the singles leading up to this thing, almost every last one of them, were so unique and so interesting for the band, and I have been just so hyped to hear about this thing. Watch that. And I have just been so hyped to hear this thing. Let's chat about it. This album starts off with Betrayal, and it's a hell of a start. I mean, like I said, this is a much more post-punk driven album at the end of the day, and this is exactly the track to really get the gears rolling. It's upbeat, it's nasty, and let me tell you, friends, it is freaking frigid. I mean, everything about this track is constantly growing, pulsating, trying something new, and the vocals are exactly where this track needs to be. They are short, they are sweet, they are subtle, and they just complement this track wonderfully. And this track, you know, it's a pretty fast-paced, short intro, but it really does set the tone perfectly. Dumb Guitar really loved this track too. That seriously very icy, cold, unforgiving post-punk of this album has really been ushered in very well with singles like this. Also, the production. I don't know what dystopian generation we've wandered into, but it's a really nice touch. I love the vocal snippets and the sort of very icy, cold rhythm that we get here because, yeah, there's a weird-ass groove to this. Yeah, it's really sharp, and the layers of synth and vocals just give this track a hell of a sound to it. And that big ol' freaking memorable, albeit really downtrodden chorus is incredibly memorable. Honestly, as far as taking this leap into this genre, the band is doing a really great job. It also has just a lot, and I mean a lot of personality. Not only that, the final ambient moments that we get here are incredibly classy. This is a hell of a single. Shipwreck continues along this very frigid, very post-punk sound, but it does so in a very playful way. I love the monotone, very robotic performance on this track, and the riff, while very straightforward, is incredibly effective. Also, don't mean to keep harping on this, but the production across this whole album gives Mount Kimbie such a great backdrop for their music. There's something so addictive about this track, and the sequencing and the synthesizers are, really interesting sound. What Mount Kimbie have done here and taken this much of a leap in such a short time is really impressive, honestly, but it hurts to say it, but man, when this album gets rough, it gets really rough, like Got Me. The material presented here so far has given me chills, and then I hear this, and I think it's just such a big drop in quality. This is a formless, mushy pile of garbage that is trying so hard to be a vibe. It really doesn't hit me at all, though, especially vocally. Like, this is so phoned in. A Figure in the Surf, sadly, is not that much better. I mean, from a distance, it actually sounds like the next logical leap. I mean, especially in that riff, this sort of new wavy inspired, very jittery riff. Certainly, the cards are all here on the table, but why is this so freaking clunky? I mean, throughout this record, Mount Kimbie have sounded so sure of themselves. And then I hear this, and it's just awkward and, more importantly, amateurish. Why is this just sounds like a place to bury strangers, but underwater for some reason? I don't know. And Yucca Tree, late in the album, I mean, it's not bad, but it's just a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, leading up to this track, those first couple of notes, that riff actually really pumped me up. Also, the dreamy vocals are a really, really nice touch, but the rest of this track doesn't have enough juice to get there. Compared to a lot of the other tracks here, this one just seems really kind of predictable. It's, however, not the worst sin committed here, and it is cool to an extent. I just wish that these blemishes weren't just so obvious, because the rest of this album is really, really cool. I'd still strongly recommend this. Boxing featuring King Cruel, I mean, I'm just such a sucker for these two together. I'd really honestly love to hear a full-length album of these two together. It's another very dystopian, gloomy, very harrowed track. I mean, Archie sounds really great on vocals on this track, and the sound play, once again, is nothing short of impressive. And with Fishbrain, I mean, this has been an album of nothing short of Mount Kimbie really pushing themselves, and then we get a track like this. This turns things up to a whole nother level that I did not think was possible. This hazy, off-kilter beat is practically influenced by Neo-Psych. This is easily the track at their most experimental. This is easily the band at their most experimental. It's meditative, it's hypnotic, but it's also really sweet on the ears. Fans of like Spirit of the Beehive should definitely check this out. And truthfully, maybe the best track here. And Empty and Silent featuring King Cruel is a great finale. I mean, there's such a drama to this track that I so respect. I mean, the synth work here, yes. It's also kind of sweet and maybe even blissful. It has almost like an N64 soundtrack kind of feel to it, especially with those MIDI synths. But it does pick up nicely into another very spacey, very welcoming indie jam. This track, you know, it's one of the longer ones here, but it's really a journey. Archie on vocals is at his most commanding, which is something that I always want to hear. And over this 6 minutes, this track does not get stale. I just wish that, you know, the blemishes on this record were not as noticeable as they are. I mean, it's a 9-track album. It's barely over 39 minutes. When 3 of them are pretty big blemishes, you know, I have to call it out, sadly, even if the rest of this album is actually in a really cool, refreshing, and just genuinely experimental vibe. I just wish that the consistency was here, man, because so much of this material is so cool, and I still very much recommend it. But for now, I'm feeling a strong 7 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.